All right, let's do the next two examples. These are circle-based or circular prisms. They do not come to a point. And so I'll write this down. This is a circle-based, but I'm actually going to write circular. Well, you could write circle-based if you want, and then it's a prism. Now, we also know this to be a cylinder. All right, now, I don't know why this does this sometimes. This is quite difficult to do, so I have done a little bit of a drawing that you might want to pause for a moment as soon as you see it. But just let me explain first. So I just kind of did a detached drawing, very much like the net solids that we did. And so you can see that I've got a top and a bottom, and then there's the part that wraps around, the side part that kind of wraps all the way around. Now, if you completely unravel that side, it turns into a rectangle. And to find this distance, it is the circumference of the circle. So this all the way around this, is where that's the total distance this thing will be, because it would have had to wrap all the way around. And so we unravel that, and that is here. That is our circumference of the circle. That's how long that distance is. And we do happen to know the height. I'll write that down too, because you're going to want to write this. So we do know that this is going to be 12 yards high. It does say that in our drawing, 12 yards. But it doesn't tell us what that distance is. Sorry, let me just scroll down here. So again, it does tell us that this is 12 yards high. But we're going to need to find out what this distance is. Remember, it's base times height. So we're going to need to do that part after. So I'll just zoom out here. I've labeled this as top and bottom, and then we have the sides, which is just the part that wraps around. So freeze it and kind of copy this down, and then we'll actually solve this. Okay, so the top and bottom, those are circles. Those are our circles there. And we have a radius of 7. It tells us that this distance here is 7 for our circle. I'm going to try to draw a bit of a nicer circle, if that's even possible. And we're going to need to find the area of that. So area of a circle is pi times the radius squared, which you're going to have memorized. Now we do know that pi is 3.14. That's what we're estimating it to be. And we're not going to be using a calculator, so we'll leave it like that. And the radius is 7, and we're going to square that. 3.147 squared. Now 7 squared is going to be 49, so 3.14 and 49. I'm going to need to rewrite that in just a moment here because the computer is glitching. Now, I don't know how to multiply that. Sorry, I do know how, but I don't know how to do it in my head, so I'm going to write it vertically. And from what we did last lesson, you can see that the decimal place has been moved over twice for 3.14. So I'm going to multiply this like normal, and then I'll just make sure to move the decimal place back twice. So 9 times 4 is 36. So put the 6, carry the 3, 9, 10, 11, 12. Carry the 1. 27 plus the 1 is 28. Start with a 0. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 plus the 1 is 5. And 4 times 3 is 12. Now if I add that up, I get a 6. I get an 8. Yeah, 6 plus 2 is indeed 8. Then I get 8 plus 5, which is going to be 13. 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5, and then 1. And then I'm going to make sure I do a decimal place. So we get 153.86. And I don't know what the units are, yards or something. I'm going to write this down. And maybe I'll have to change that in just a moment here. Let's just take a look. Whoops. Now that's the oh no, there's a top and a bottom. So we actually need to double that. Okay, I forgot about that. So we have I'm just going to try to, well, I'll fix that later. I get 153.86, but I will need to double that. So I'm going to times it by 2. Now, I can't do that in my head, so I'll have to manually do that. So make sure I don't run out of, yeah, I think I'll be okay. So I've got 153.86 times it by 2. 2 times 6 is 12. 8, 16 plus the 1 is 17. 6 plus the 1 is 7. 0, 3. So I get 307.72. Again, I can't remember if it's yards or not, but I'll put yard square. I can always change that if that's not true. So 307.72 yards square. That's the top in the model. And you can already see how much more complicated this is. I had to do pi r squared for a circle. I had to use 3.14 for pi. And then 7 squared was 49. I did not know how to do that in my head, so I had to manually do that, only to then have to actually double that again. And then I ended up getting 307.72. Now the sides. The side of this thing is a rectangle, like I drew, and this is 12. It's 12 high. So this rectangle, if you unravel that thing, you can see that it's 12 high. And then we need to know that distance. And that distance, like I had mentioned, is the circumference of the circle. And you're going to have to, like, I can't teach it any way other than just to tell you that that's true, and then for you to practice. And unfortunately, it takes a bunch of time. And so I now have the circumference over here. I wrote the formula is 2 pi r. So I'm going to make this 2 pi r. And we're going to, the very first thing we're going to have to do is 2 pi r. So let's start with the 2 pi r. So 2 pi r, which is 2 times 3.14 times the radius, which is 7. Now I'm actually going to multiply the 2 and the 7 first and get 14. I'll multiply that by 3.14. And I have to do that vertically because I don't know what that is. So I'm going to erase those in a moment. 3.14, and then I'll times that by 14. There are 2 decimal places, so I will just do this, and then I can change that. Maybe I'll just write it actually over here because I'm running out of room. 314, and then times that by 14. So 4 times 4 is 16, 4 plus 1 is 5, and that's a 12, 0, and then 4, 1, 3. So I get 6, 9, 3, 4. So 43, and then I move the decimal place over twice. So I get 43.96. Okay. So that means that I have this now, which is 43.96, and then I have this as my 12. So I've now, 96. I've now figured out this is now that. All of that work, 2 pi r. Pi is 3.14, r is 7, multiplied that. 7 and 2 is 14, and then did the vertical multiplication. So now I actually need to find the area of that. So the area is 43.96 times that by 12. 2 times 6 is 12. 18 plus 1 is 19. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then 8. Start with a 0. And this is just a 1. Okay, so 6, 9, 3, 4. And I can add that up. So I get 2, 15, 17, 12, and 5. So I get 52752, and then I have 2 decimal places for that. So it equals 527.52. yards squared. So then we need some sort of therefore, some sort of concluding sentence for the surface area. So therefore, what is our final surface? Well, I have the top and bottom, which I got 307.72, and I have 527.52. So we're going to need to add those together. And I'm running out of room. So I'm going to put a big therefore here. Therefore, the surface area equals 527.52. That's the body, the sides. And then there's the 307.72. That's my top and my bottom. 2 and 2 is 4. 5 plus 7 is 12. 7 plus 7 is 14. Plus the 1 is 15. That's going to be a 3, and that's going to be an 8 yards squared. And so that is my final surface area. That's an 11-minute question, and there's a lot going on there. So I will do another video for the next one. But first, let me just zoom out, and so that we can just see all of the work.